What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. We are basically on to the 2026 NFL season already. I know it feels like the Super Bowl was just a few weeks ago. It was. But the Combine is coming up, literally moments away. And so is free agency. And that is what we are covering here over the last 2 weeks. We've talked about free agent quarterbacks, free agent running backs, which means we are on to the wide receivers. And our guest is the always awesome Julia Papworth. Let's get into it. What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. No Joe Zolo this week. Ryan Weiss in the host seat. With me, as always, Josh Hudson. Josh, how are you this evening, my friend?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Got a brand new desk chair, so I'm sitting cushy right now, and always excited when I get to chop it up with our good friend Julia, because I miss her so much, and I hate that we live on opposite coasts of the states.
Opposite parts of the world.
I was for my intro, I was thinking what I was going to say, and I was really leaning on the fact that there are people unlucky enough on this planet that they'll never get to work with Julia Papworth.
Oh,
I've worked with you at multiple companies and currently do. So how are you, my friend? Great to have you back.
I'm so good. You're so sweet. I'm so good. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me. I'm enjoying off season, although is it really off season? Because like you said, it's Combines tomorrow, right? What day is it today? Wednesday? Literally tomorrow. Literally tomorrow.
It literally clicked for me because I like to give myself some time off before we jump into the mock draft shows. And I'm like, there is no off season anymore.
I mean, I feel like I haven't been looking at like redraft and, current NFL players because I've been, knee deep in the rookies. So this is kind of nice. And I did have to remind myself of who's playing where and what's going on because I've just been seeing college stuff for the past, month and a half. So, yeah.
It's weird because we get the Combine and then we get such a lull before the draft and then the free agency in between that lull. Before we get into these wide receivers, Julia, I'd like to start the show right off the rip for the people who are listening. Let people know who you work for, where they can find your work, and anything you might have going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. I work for the Amazing Fantasy Footballers. I'm one of the content editors over there, right over there as well. And I also get to do some pieces for Football Guys as well. So two of what I think are the best companies in the space and the best people in the space. Very good people. And I love what I get to do with those guys.
I can't help but agree because I've been at both of those places and my third one, Club Fantasy. So
yeah,
that's the right answer, Ryan.
Which, if you're watching now and you haven't hit subscribe yet, what the hell is wrong with you? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you happen to be listening for Joe Zolo on the Poll or the Tiffy, Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. Joe's a weirdo who gets mad because
is that something the kids are listening to? What is that?
No. Joe is a psychopath. And he mentioned a few weeks ago that he doesn't like that he doesn't get to hear it when he's not on the show. So for Joe.
Got it. For Joe.
If you want to talk fantasy football when the show is over, jump into our Discord. It is completely free. A lot of fantasy baseball talk right now, but with the draft and the Combine going on this weekend, I have a feeling we're going to see a shift. Why not get in there right now? Josh is dropping the link in the chat right now. It's also in the description of this video. Let's get into the show. Let's start this thing off with the teams that might be looking at wide receiver. And Josh has been kind enough to provide a list. One thing I always preface on this show every year rather, every team is looking for wide receiver with the exception of maybe two. But these are the ones probably in the biggest need. We're looking at the Raiders. Trey Tucker is currently the wide receiver one after they moved on from Jacoby Myers last year.
I mean, Brock Bowers is the wide receiver.
That's true as well. Yeah. And with the Browns, they have Jerry Jeudy, but they do have Harold Fannin. Who knows what's going on there? Titans have nobody. A couple of second-day rookies are there. I found this interesting, Josh. I put all these teams together because you had had them separate, but the Jets, the Giants, the Commanders, the Saints, the Dolphins, and the Steelers, you could literally look at, are in the exact same position. They have a wide receiver one. They just have nothing behind that. And before my Wan'Dale lovers come for me, I too support Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a free agent right now. We're going to talk about him more on the show. But right now, these teams don't have anybody behind their starting guy. You got the Chiefs. Rashee Rice has gotten himself into trouble again. Xavier Worthy doesn't seem to be panning out. The Bills are still really relying on our guy, Julia, Khalil Shakir. And then you got the Patriots.
Can just keep dreaming. Keep dreaming he'll make it. But
I always tell the story. You and I were in a rookie draft together, and I tried to trade for your pick. And you were like, I think you're going to take the guy I want if I trade you this pick. And it was Khalil Shakir. So.
Yeah. And like, this is the thing. He's good, but he's just not what they need an alpha. They need a true alpha over there. We'll talk about that for sure.
Yeah. And then the Patriots who have the Bills' former alpha, Stephon Diggs, who's looking more like a beta at this point. Let's start this thing off with
be out of there.
For fantasy football. This is obviously a fantasy football focused show. Julia, when you look at these landing spots, or maybe even a spot not mentioned, if you believe there's a need, when you look at these landing spots, what do you think is the best spot for fantasy football?
I mean, I would say Buffalo, right? Because you just look who's throwing them the ball, right? Josh Allen, he needs a wide receiver one. And if the offense properly goes that direction, which it should, if you get an alpha wide receiver one, hopefully that will be enough to get them over the hump. Like, they have to learn something from this year, right? Like, this was the year that they needed to win it and they didn't. And I think they have to take that step. And what have they not done? For whatever reason, they have not had that blue chip wide receiver one player that they've just been like, this is it. This is all the targets, because then it's going to open up the stuff for Khalil Shakir and any one of those tight ends and James Cook pass catching and whatnot. But it's like, you have to have that. You have to have that. Josh Allen cannot put the entire city of Buffalo on his back again. He can almost do it, but he shouldn't have to do it again.
Yeah, Josh, I was going to go to that same point with you where I also have the Bills near the top of my list. You, Josh, were the first one I remember banging the drum if not this year, when, for Josh Allen and crew. And they're about to get this new stadium a year from today, basically. More money than God spent on this season. Not the season, the stadium, rather. Ridiculous amount of money going into the stadium. They need to have a product on the field, Josh. Is that your best spot for a fantasy wide receiver as well?
Actually, it's not. And really, it's not about the fact that Josh Allen is the quarterback and you put a great wide receiver with him and great things are going to happen. It's the scheme. Joe Brady doesn't want that. That's why they jettisoned Stephon Diggs. They want options, right? They want to be able to spread the football around and take advantage of that. And that's kind of why they went out and got Keon Coleman, because he offers a different skill set than someone like a Khalil Shakir, right? He's just not dominant. He hasn't developed. The kid can't separate. That's why they're in the situation that they're in 3 years after drafting him. For me, I'm looking at teams that if you give them a wide receiver one where they can generate 120, 125 plus targets, that is what I want from a wide receiver. I'm looking dead at Tennessee. They've got the most available cap space. They've got a quarterback who is very willing to sling the football. And you bring in Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator. The last 8 years that he has called plays, they have averaged over 550 pass attempts per season. That shakes out to about 33 per game. That's the kind of volume that a potential wide receiver one dropped into that spot that can command targets. That is what's going to be chef's kiss for fantasy managers.
That's a great answer.
And 8 times in those 8 seasons, he's had a wide receiver one or a wide receiver in general finish with over a 20% target share. And that's happened twice in the same season. Because remember, he had Malik Neighbors with 170 targets, Wan'Dale Robinson with 140 targets. So they're not afraid to throw the football.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I think Buffalo, you have to make sure that they buy into that concept if we get a wide receiver one. And it seems like they've been fighting it for a while, like you said, having options. I think Tennessee is a great answer. I also think that you could get someone at a little bit of a discount because it's Tennessee and people are like, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying 2 or 3 rounds for wide receiver one, but you might be able to get somebody 4 or 5 picks later, going there instead. So
yeah, I think them sitting at the 4th overall pick is going to be really interesting because like every mock draft that I've seen is like, oh, they're going defense. Oh, they're going defense. Maybe they add more pieces to the offensive line. Like they've spent some pretty high draft capital on some offensive line talent over the past few years. You bring in Robert Saleh, it's a defensive guy. Defensive head coaches like to pick defensive players with those high impact picks. And they need a legit defensive end. And I think anyone from Ruben Bain, David Bailey, Arvell Reese, any of those guys being there would be great additions to that defense. But then you look at the top wide receivers in this class that I think are getting pushed up because there aren't as much top end talent at impact positions that maybe they could be in play for someone like a Carnell Tate, right? Or even a Jordan Tyson if they look at somebody that I want a big body guy in there because, you know, I do think that they'll be in on Wan'Dale Robinson, seeing as how Dable was in New York when they drafted Wan'Dale. That could very well be an option for them because, again, they have the most cap space. So why not go get your boy Cam Ward a target because he needs to throw to somebody, right? Like Ayamanor, Ayamanor, however you pronounce his last name. I've heard it pronounced 5 different ways. I like him as a player. I think he could be really good, but
solid wide receiver 3. Great. But wide receiver 3.
Then it becomes how fast can he develop? Because if he can't develop fast enough, you're stunning the growth of your top quarterback, right? So go get a guy that can help him take that next step. Maybe Carnell Tate's that guy. So you bring in Wan'Dale. Maybe you don't need to take a wide receiver, but if you don't go and get somebody like Wan'Dale, maybe Carnell Tate is an option there at 4.
I think this draft class is really deep. I think in wide receiver, I personally think that the free agency class in wide receiver is not great. I think there's people. I personally think that Wan'Dale's going to re-sign with the Giants, so I'm like considering him off the table. But I think that personally, I mean, we're going to turn into a draft show here. I think Tennessee should use that pick on defense. I think there's some really, really good people who are going to be there. They'll just take who Arizona doesn't take, and I'm sure we'll screw it up somehow because that's what we do. And then they could easily get when's their next pick? Just second round? How many?
I believe
they have a lot.
Round, yeah.
They have a lot of picks too, don't they? They have a few. I mean, they might be able to. They could collect some wide receivers. I feel like who have good shots of hitting, but.
And if they're not enamored with these defensive players, they could also trade back, let a defensive player or a wide receiver come to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then.
So they have their 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. They have the Jets 5th. They have 2 in the 6th.
Okay. So they have
they have 7 picks.
Yeah.
I could agree
with you. They might trade back. Yeah.
I just wonder if they're not going to spend an early pick, a 1st or a 2nd round pick on a wide receiver. You just spent 2 day 2 picks on wide receivers last year. Like, are we just going to keep collecting misfit toys? Then you're just the Green Bay.
Well, there's the thing. DK showed that he can be good, but his value is special teams, right?
Yeah. Incredible special teams. I mean,
he was a Pro Bowler special teamer.
He's the next Rashid Shaheed.
At one point late in the season, he led the NFL in all-purpose yards. So
I may or may not have had to start him somewhere.
I definitely did, and he ended up being a god in Scott Fishbowl for a little while too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm also excited to see like what the Patriots do.
You took the words out of my mouth. That was who I was going to go to here.
So I personally think, on a personal level, I think that Stephon Diggs, bless his heart, not going to date my sister. I think he's probably going to be maybe gently nudged out the door because that's how he seems to go with teams. He also has some legal issues. So I think if the Patriots can like Homer Simpson that back into the leaves, they will. I think that I think they're going to try to get AJ Brown over there. I think they will try. Look at you shaking your head.
AJ Brown's not going anywhere.
Do you really think he's going to stay?
He's not going anywhere. He's not. His problem was it was Kevin Patullo. That was a problem. Patullo sucked.
That was
the dude called more hitch routes at wide receiver than anybody in the NFL, like 3 times over. It was so bad. But it will cost Philly way more to release him or trade him than it will to just stick it out one more year
for a team with zero cap room.
And that's the point. Is like they've invested in these star players, and like they've preached this. You don't trade quality players that are helping you win games, and that's what AJ Brown does.
No, I was going to hit that New England point as well, because I agree wholeheartedly. This is not the regime that's going to deal with Stephon Diggs' bullshit, plain and simple. He has too much going on, and these are people who learned under Bill Belichick. You're not going to deal with this. But more importantly, he just wasn't able to deliver. And to Josh's point, when you're looking, you want a player who can command 120 to 130 targets. While Diggs only hit 100 this year, that's more of a Diggs problem, in my opinion. This is a team that is willing to hyper target their wide receiver one. And what I mean by hyper target is Diggs at 102, Mac Hollins at 65. That's their number 2 wide receiver by way of targets. They're giving all of the targets to one player. If it's a better player, that's the other landing spot for me for fantasy purposes. And I want to go to Julia's point. I had it as Buffalo or New England, not to take away from Josh and his perpetual optimism for Cam Ward. If I can put a guy with Josh Allen or Drake May, I'm putting a guy with Josh Allen or Drake May. Drake May is a little better than.
But you know what though?
3 weeks.
Wide receivers on bad teams eat. Let's not forget that, because you got to throw to keep up, baby.
They do. And look, let's be honest. I think Tennessee is, and I use the term turnaround loosely. Like they're not going to go to the Super Bowl. Sorry, Titans fans. But I think there will be a turnaround. Like they are trying to change the culture. They're trying to change the regime. They do believe in Cam Ward. I don't know if I believe in Cam Ward, but you might believe in him enough, right, to build.
And it's certainly not that the AFC South is a impossible to win division. There's no juggernaut in that division. So.
Yeah, they can start chipping away and starting to build the culture. And then once they get something under their belt, they can go from there. And then you're going to have other players that want to come and play for you. That's the thing, right? You're going to have that draw.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We branched out quite a bit, but I guess this just kind of leads to the next question, Josh.
Yeah.
Do you see the Titans then as the team that's going to make the biggest splash? Or, I mean, we've been talking about their cap room for ages, or do you think they maybe look to the draft and we see it somewhere else?
No, I think it's going to be the Raiders, because they need more at wide receiver. Like they need straight up depth across the board. Like they need a true number 1. They need a 2, a 3. Trey Tucker's ass. I'm sorry. He's the dude is masquerading as a 1, and he's, a 4 at best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you got a new head coach coming in, Clint Kubiak. He's got a proven system. I mean, we've seen Justin Jefferson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith and Jigba all succeed in this offensive system.
Interesting.
And so I think you put somebody in there that has some level of ability, they can succeed. I think that the Rashid Shaheed to Las Vegas is a pretty much wrapped deal, because Shaheed is in Clint Kubiak's system as a god, right?
Yeah.
So there's somebody that can come in, knows the system, that can operate as a useful target for what is likely going to be Fernando Mendoza. And then they can say, all right, who else can we bring in that can be either a reliable veteran or somebody that we can maybe turn into, at worst, a low-end Chris Olave, wide receiver 2 season in fantasy, right? So I think that there's ability there, and it all boils down to how much the Raiders are going to fix that offensive line, because it's so bad. But there's at least opportunity, because that system, I have seen this Shanahan McVay system succeed with piss poor offensive linemen.
Yeah.
The system just works. So if they can make it work around a healthy Colton Miller, even with like decently average offensive linemen, Fernando Mendoza will be fine. It's just he's got to have people to throw to.
Yeah.
Shout out to Annie Agar. It may have been an old tweet, but it's been since the national championship. Apparently, Fernando Mendoza said that he was now addicted to winning. And she said, shout out to the Raiders. They're going to help this kid beat addiction.
That's hilarious. That's funny. That's really funny.
So I thought that was amazing. Top notch.
I mean, I like him. I think he's really smart. He's well spoken. I think he will be a really good system quarterback. And look, I mean, you look at someone like Brock Purdy, and you look at that sort of thing. And it's like those guys work. Those guys work, and they will play, and they will help their teams. So I think Mendoza will be good. I'm hoping he is. That was a hell of a story.
I like Josh's reasoning that the Raiders are likely to spend the most at wide receiver because
they need multiple, right? Yeah, like some of these other teams that you only just need like one, right? So that's why I think that when you look at splash, like, because I feel like the top available wide receivers, they're either going to get franchise tagged or they're going to get re-signed. Like I think that.
Yeah, we may spend a lot of the show talking about guys who we want to change teams, and we don't can't
exactly, and they're probably not. But I think that the Raiders have, because they're likely going quarterback at 1, sitting at the top of the second round. Maybe they look to trade back in if they think that one of these wide receivers, because a lot of mock drafts I've been seeing have upwards of 6 wide receivers going in the first round, right? So maybe they look at, one of these guys in the back end is like, all right, we think that this guy has true number 1 potential, and maybe they trade back in instead of waiting to see if they end up falling to him. But I think that there's going to be options in free agency, especially when you're looking at guys that could be cut or released, traded maybe, that, a veteran that could come in and be a quality force for a young quarterback to rely on.
Yeah. Julia, did you see another team making a big splash?
Sorry, my internet got weird. What did you say about big splash?
Did you see another team other than the Raiders making a big splash?
I mean, I also said I was also thinking Tennessee would, which we've already sort of talked to death, because you have to have the need and the capacity, right? Whether it's draft picks or money or all that stuff. It's like some of these other teams can dream big, but like you can only do what you can do, right?
Yeah. And I have nothing to add, so I think we're just going to move on to the next section, because I also had Tennessee. Good. Josh has made this point for weeks. They have the most cap room. And I said last week, I don't think they're going to go crazy at running back. I think they could go crazy at wide receiver. And again, if we're looking at Shamiri DK, maybe they're seeing him as a wide receiver 5 for special teams. And then you have Manor, you still have 2 or 3 spots you need to fill around that, and Calvin Ridley ain't it anymore. So now we'll talk about the players, and this is a pretty big section. I haven't decided how I'm going to break this down yet. I think I'm going to do the first 2 sections and let you guys just kind of talk about some of the players before I get to the questions. So we have the players that are in their prime about to hit free agency. This is still a very tiered group. I think you have George Pickens, on another tier, Wan'Dale Robinson, and on a third tier, Alec Pearson, and maybe Romeo Doubs can go with him. While those guys might be the best players available, as Julia mentioned earlier, not a great wide receivers class. The depth pieces are interesting. Club fantasy favorite, Rashid Shaheed. Tutu Atwell's out there, Hollywood Brown, Jawan Jennings, Jahan Dotson, Greg Dortch, John Mechie, Olamide Zaccheaus, Jalen Tolbert, Gabe Davis, Traylon Burks, Tyquan Thornton, and Jalen Coker is a
early rights free agent.
Yeah, so
there are people on there that I was like, are they still playing? I mean, like, I feel like there's people on there that are just, you just sprinkle in, like, no offense to some of these wonderful humans, but like, people aren't going after Dotson. People aren't going after John Mechie. People aren't going out and trying to get Jalen Tolbert. Like,
well, you bring up, actually, I want to quickly get into this with you, Julia, because there are 2 names on this list that stand out to me. And that is
on the entire list.
No.
Or on this way. Okay.
With what you were about to go with, Jahan Dotson and Traylon Burks are former first round picks, and they've both been wide receiver 3s on teams that did not draft them over the last few years. Are you planting your flag that these guys are done? Like, even at 26 years old, you don't think they can live up to that draft capital anymore?
I don't think they will live up to that draft capital. I think they will drift and drift and drift. And it sucks because like I liked Traylon Burks a lot. I had him in a lot of places. And
I know I traded him to you for Tyreek Hill.
I know. Yeah. And we both lost. You're
not wrong.
Well, actually you bring up Tyreek Hill then, and you think to yourself, okay, so if I'm a team and I'm trying to get, anything to get me over the hump or something, 1 or 2 pieces, I would rather throw a dart on which I love. Like, what did you say? The aging. Do they have anything left? I asked that about myself many times when I was in there. But Like, I would rather throw a dart at somebody like Tyreek Hill and Deebo Samuel. Not saying that you're going to hit anything, but I'd rather throw a dart there than say, this is the year that Treylon Burks is going to make it. You know, like, at least you've seen Tyreek Hill do something. I also think Tyreek Hill is going to go back to Kansas City. I think Mahomes is going to bring that whole crew over to dinner and he's going to say, let's go one last ride. Kelsey's going to be like, sure, let's do it. They're going to go for it. They're going to draft Jeremiah because they've never had a freaking pick that early. And we're all going to cry about that because we won't know what he's going to be able to do. Yeah. And then they'll just try and I think that's what they're going to do there. And then you got Mike Evans still. Mike Evans still has it, I think, a little bit.
Well, I was going to say, let's move into that section. Then you got Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Juju Smith-Schuster, Brandon Cooks, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Josh, you've named this the aging. Do they have anything left? I wanted to just start
Sponsored
with Mike
by
Evans.
AARP.
Yeah. And Ryan's beard. Mike Evans, Josh, you're down in the Tampa area. It seems everybody's pretty accommodating that Mike Evans is going to retire a Buccaneer.
I mean, there's definitely buzz about that, but the way that reports are kind of coming out is that he's open to testing the market. And I mean, a couple of years ago when Evans did ultimately end up re-signing with Tampa, I believe the Patriots were sniffing around him. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if maybe Tampa's like, look, we want to bring you back. You know, we know we want you to retire a Buccaneer. But I mean, they just spent a first-round pick on Emeka Egbuka. They drafted Jalen McMillan 2 years ago to basically do what Mike Evans does, and they decided to pay Chris Godwin. So, you know, I think that there's going to be a world where Mike Evans is not in a Buccaneers uniform in 2026. Yeah.
I think that if he leaves Tampa, he is going to go to a team that he literally feels like could win that year, because let's be honest, he doesn't have much. So I'm saying Bills. I'm saying Patriots. I don't think there's many places. If he goes to the Bills, I still don't think he's the one. I don't think he's the one if he goes to the Bills. He is a delightful, fancy touchdown stealer, I feel like. And I think if these teams make an advance to him, if they ask him out on a date and he says, what can you give me? And they can't do like a massive, 10-carat diamond ring. They don't have the money for it, but they have like a really nice Costco ring. And they're like, look, we can do this. And you just have to be here for a year and it's going to be cold, but it's okay. It's just going to be a year and we're going to get to the Super Bowl.
That just tells me he's going to be on IR for 8 weeks with another hamstring.
You guys
probably
you guys hit exactly what I was going to say, because I'm going to throw Greasy K up on the screen here as well. They say the Packers for Mr. Mike Evans. Mike Evans played his college ball at Texas A&M and has played his entire pro career in Tampa Bay.
You don't know how to do cold, that boy. You don't know how to do cold.
He's won a Super Bowl. I don't know that he's going to go freeze. And believe me, I'm in upstate New York.
Yeah. Also, isn't like the tax situation in Florida way better than some of the tax situations?
Yeah, we have no sales tax here.
Certainly,
we have no sales tax in Florida.
Says the girl from California who pays an atrocious amount of every sort of tax.
Move to Vegas. They don't have sales tax there either.
Oh my God, I know, that sounds amazing. Oregon doesn't either. Oregon doesn't.
I thought Arizona didn't either.
No, Arizona has sales tax.
Okay. No, state tax, like state income tax. I mean,
oh no, we definitely have a state.
It was
income
supposed
tax.
to be Josh. I was gonna say Josh was saying sales tax. It's state income tax.
It's state tax. Yeah,
God, we have definitely pivoted this program. I'm so glad. It's everyone who wants to know about tax season. Let's
I was
go.
gonna say we are. I think by law I have to say we are not tax professionals.
No, not
do
tax
not
professionals.
take tax advice from the three
or
of
doctors
us.
or
draft
doctors.
advice, but not tax advice. And then, as I mentioned, I think the most interesting players are the ones who might be moving. AJ Brown has already come up on the show. Brandon Ayuk will certainly be moving. He will not be a San Francisco 49er.
Also, who wants to sign Brandon Ayuk? I'm going to be honest with you. He sounds like kind of not a nice human.
I was going to say, what an interesting turn of events over the last 3 seasons.
Oh, how the turntables have turned. Yeah. I mean, first of all, San Francisco is thanking their lucky stars about his, vibe because they got out of so much money, right? They got Juwan Jennings now, baby.
He's a free agent, so they don't.
You do. Yeah.
They're gonna try. So they want him there. Lynch.
I cannot imagine a world. Spoiler alert: the whole end of the show is landing spots, and we're telling you all of our predicted landing spots right now.
I haven't mentioned any of mine.
No, you've done good.
The bigger situation in San Francisco is the Trent Williams talk because if they let Trent go, that is a whole nother situation.
Well, it changes their offense as we've seen in the past.
Changes everything.
Also in this section, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley. Oh, what might have been. But if you have more thoughts on Ayuk, feel free, Julie. I just want to make sure we get all those names out there.
I mean, look, this is the thing. I don't know where he goes. Like, he hasn't played football in a year. Like, even if he was physically able to have played, which I think, like, he probably was a little bit okay to play, like, that's a long time. Like,
it's basically what Calvin Ridley did. Like, after,
I remember
the whole Atlanta
situation,
situation, taking the year off for gambling, and then coming back with Jacksonville. And I mean, he still had 1,000 yards in Jacksonville before going to Tennessee. So, I mean, I think there's a good landing spot out there for Brandon Ayuk, and we'll get to that later. But again, it just boils down to who wants the headache. What environment's going to make him not a headache, I guess, is more the question. So.
And you would have thought that team and that leadership would have been the one that would have done it, right? Like, they don't take crap.
Shanahan put him in the doghouse the moment he was drafted. That was a recipe for disaster from day one. So
they did not get along.
No.
When we look at the wide receivers up for extension, we're not going to spend a ton of time or probably any time on these guys this show, but just know these guys are up for extension, and there are some names on this list. Jackson Smith and Jigba, your reigning offensive player of the year. Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, Michael Wilson, and the GOAT, Puka Nacua. What a fucking draft class that was. Let's start with what should be the marquee free agent, Julia.
Michael Wilson. Awkward. Sorry. Future Hall of Famer.
He's an extension candidate.
Okay.
No, George Pickens.
Yes.
First and foremost, do you believe he leaves Dallas? And if he does leave Dallas, where would you like to see him end up?
I think he stays in Dallas. Okay. I mean, like, how do you let him go? Like, granted, they've made some choices in Dallas, but I just don't think you can let him go.
That's the best way to word it. They've made choices.
They've made choices. They have made choices. But man, how beautiful would it be if he went to like Buffalo? Like, how beautiful would that be for George? But I don't think it will happen. But yeah, I don't know. Thoughts? What do you guys think?
This is Dallas's annual offseason game of contract chicken. That's really what this is.
That's a good way of putting it.
They stare down the barrel of the gun, and it's just like, who's going to blink first, right? Like, Jerry's going to do his unorthodox negotiating tactics and piss somebody off. And, I don't think George Pickens leaves. I do think he ends up re-signing in Dallas. It's just going to be, I mean, they can clear a lot of cap space.
Yep.
Like the moves they can make will open up like 130 plus million. Now, keep in mind, they obviously have to rebuild that defense, but I think that they're going to end up, I think if they learn anything from the way that the Eagles operate, they will spend all their money on offense and then build their defense through the draft. So that way, when it's time to pay their defenders, if they end up earning another contract, now you're flipping and saying it's time to jettison the big contracts on offense and draft the offensive players, right? Which is kind of how Philly's been doing it.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, this is a good defensive draft. Yeah. So I think that this is, again, if they're taking cues from Howie Roseman and the Eagles, this is ultimately what they look to do. Maybe they'll bring in, one free agent. Maybe they make a trade for an edge rusher or something along those lines. But Quinnen Williams looked like a different player when he landed in Dallas. So they've got pieces there, but they'll spend the money, in my opinion, to lock up George Pickens. It's ultimately going to be, what is the final number? Because you're already paying CeeDee Lamb $35 million or $34 million a year, whatever it is. And early reports that I've heard is that the number for Pickens is around $30 million, which is basically the T. Higgins contract. And if you look at what T. Higgins means to Cincinnati, what George Pickens means to Dallas, they're simpatico. They're the same fucking player. So I don't see a reason why you shouldn't be looking at that contract as the baseline.
The one question I want to ask you guys before we move on from Pickens is, do either of you believe, with his temperament and what we've seen in the NFL, none of us know him personally, but what we've seen so far, Julia, will George Pickens play under a franchise tag, or does Dallas need to get this deal done?
Oh, good Lord. I feel like he feels like the type of guy who would be like, I'll show you. And then Jerry Jones will be like, I'll show you. And then Dak's like, come on, guys. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Remember that game that it started with like Pickens and CD were on the sideline because like something had happened. They were like, what was it? They were at a casino late at night or something.
They missed curfew the night before. So
I mean, Jerry, like it is Jerry's world. Like
he likes the sideshow.
Yeah, he really does. He likes it how he likes it. So maybe there's a thing where he's like, I'm not going to play. And Jerry goes, that's fine. You get one game. You get one game to make a statement. Or something like that. But yeah, I think we'll have a lot of chatter and then he'll sign and we'll be like, cool, moving on.
You mean Myles Garrett all over again?
I mean, that's what it boils down to. They'll show they did the same thing to CeeDee Lamb. I remember they drug out his extension contract, whatever it was, and ultimately signed him. They'll do the same thing with Pickens. I mean, at the end of the day, if there's a legit landing spot for him, for me, it's Tennessee.
Okay.
I mean, because I think Cam Ward, even though he's a young quarterback, he has the type of leadership mentality similar to Dak that I think can keep George Pickens in line.
I don't think George is going to want to go there simply because he's going to be like, I
saw what it's like to have
win in the
Dak.
next few years.
And Dak has no problem force feeding him. So
I don't know if George Pickens is going to be like, I want to win next year, as much as he's going to be like, I want to catch 100 balls next year, and Dallas is the place where I'm going to be able to do that. So
100%.
All right, I'm asking you guys to look in your crystal ball a little bit. When you look at the whole list of players I gave you, and this can include some of the folks who might not end up, well, actually, no, it can include that. I now see how Josh did his questions here. So when the ones that we know are for sure going to be free agents, Julia, do you see one of these players be potentially a top 24 wide receiver in fantasy next season?
If we're not talking about Pickens because obviously
let's take Pickens out of the list, and let's
answer.
take the guys who might be traded, because that's going to come up in the next question. So
I think Wan'Dale and I think Romeo Doubs, because I think look, Wan'Dale is a PPR god. We've seen that. And also I think he's just better than we thought he was. I think and he doesn't need to be a top 5 wide receiver. He doesn't need to be anything like that, but he's consistent enough. He can break one of those big ones free, and once in a while you'll get a game where he's, gets 2 touchdowns. And I think he is a good one there. And I think Romeo Doubs is just, I don't know why people don't seem to like him. I've always been quite a fan of him. I'm not a Matthew Golden girl. So I think I was never on that band.
You're definitely not a golden girl, Julia. You're not old. I promise you.
Oh my God. The other day, my husband got me a shirt. He called it, for the gym, he called it a pump cover. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but apparently, when I'm lifting, I'm supposed to wear it over my muscles. But it was just a photo of all the Golden Girls, and it was I think it said something like Thug Life or something, or I don't know.
I've seen that shirt.
Yeah, 100%. That's the love we have. But anyway, I think Romeo Doubs is great. I think he is another solid wide receiver. He's a good leader. He's somebody who's very dependable. And that's the kind of stuff you're looking for. You're not getting a JSN. Those guys are those guys, and they will always be there. But if you look at who were the top 20 and 24 wide receivers last year, Wan'Dale was in the top 20,
10 wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's top 10. Yeah. Overall, points per game, I think he was a little bit lower, but
he was still in that conversation. I can't wait for Cam Scatterbo to come back, guys. I know this is not a running back show, but every day I go to sleep and I think about him.
We talked about that so much last season, that what could have been for the Giants with Neighbors going out before the season ever starts. Go ahead.
So I'm wondering, where do the Giants pick? Giants pick
5.
5. Okay. what if they trade back?
I think they trade back.
What if they trade back and they take Jordan Tyson? Because
I think they'll trade back to go defense. I think Sonny Styles is very much going to be on their radar.
I just want Jordan Tyson and Cam Scott. I just want my Devils together. I just want my Sun Devils back together.
Julia's out here doing the fantasy football GM.
I know. But I mean, I'm super stoked to see what Tennessee does, but I'm also really stoked to see what the Giants do, because it's like we were just about to see something huge happen, and then the universe got in the way. But like, I'm excited to see what happens after that.
Josh, obviously not excited to see if the Giants can turn things around. But Josh, I was not expecting pro Romeo Doubs talk tonight. Well, thank you to Julia for that. Josh, do you see any of these wide receivers jumping up?
It's hilarious because I also said Romeo Doubs.
Really?
I think
Romeo tonight.
Here's the thing. Of those, like, potential starters that we listed, I think he's the only one that actually changes teams.
Okay.
And I think that there's a world where he can make an impact. He can be one of these wide receivers that we see sort of take off in a new home on a second contract kind of thing. Like, you look at what he's done over the last 4 years, he's averaged just around 80 targets a game and just over 5 touchdowns per season. And he's had 1 year with 7, 1 year with 6. And he's done that while averaging 12 yards per catch. So like and this is what I love about him, because he can do a little bit of everything. He's been a red zone target.
Yeah.
He can be a deep threat, but he can also be that volume guy that just works in between the 10s and move the sticks. And I think that type of wide receiver, while he's nothing special from a talent perspective, I think he's just a smart football player.
Yeah.
And knows how to make things work. But because of the Green Bay system and how they go about utilizing wide receivers, like, he never had over 100 targets in a game. The most he ever had was 96. So that automatically just kind of caps him in terms of, like, people aren't going to look at him as like a true alpha or a true wide receiver 1. Like, but I think he has the ability. He can be a solid 2. He can also be like a 1B for a high octane offense.
I was going to say that, like a 1A, 1B. Yeah.
And it's funny because when I'm going through and I'm looking at this, I think there's a lot of teams that could use a player like him, but it took me the longest to figure out where I thought that he would be the best fit.
Okay.
So I'm going to be really interesting. Oh, we're getting to that one in the landing spot section. Okay. Don't worry. This is called burying the lead, setting the foreshadowing, right? Like, that's what we're doing here. So, but yeah, I think Romeo Doubs is going to be a guy that ultimately ends up getting a bigger payday than we think, because he's going to be the only one left.
Yeah. I don't necessarily have an answer for this. You guys might have talked me into it when we brought up that maybe Mike Evans leaves Tampa Bay. If Mike Evans leaves Tampa Bay, he did not have a great season last year, played 8 games. I just quickly pasted out. If he had played 16 on that pace, he would have been the wide receiver 36. But I also think if Mike Evans goes and chases a good quarterback, we could see better than what we saw last year. I don't see Mike Evans chasing a bag to Tennessee or the Raiders. Not. So
he's elderly.
He's entering his DeAndre Hopkins era.
Yeah.
He's changing teams to chase.
Low blow.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. Just stick it in there.
Well, let's hope he fares better than DeAndre Hopkins when he started jumping. And now we can get into the other section, which is the hypotheticals. And we've kind of talked a lot about this already. But Julia, when you look at these players like AJ Brown, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, do you see any of them getting moved and then becoming a star again for their new team?
I mean, look, Josh thinks that AJ Brown stays. He may have talked me into that. Ayuk is really that wild card, right? Because he hasn't played. We don't know where he's going. We don't know what's going to happen. He could easily go somewhere and just be like, F San Francisco, I'm going to show what they're missing. You know what I mean? And like, we've seen those pieces, those times of talent, and he has it in him. So if he gets lucky enough to...
It was just the electromagnetic waves the whole time. That was all that was stopping him.
Also, just go and check it out. Like, just mark it off your list. Mark it off your list. Like, look into it, guys. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You go, no, it's not it. Then fine. There has to be some, like, the amount of injuries in comparison to other seasons and other teams. Or the other thing too is, like, I remember It was last season, and they were talking. It was like one beat reporter was talking about how they were watching the other team warm up, and there was something about like the difference between dynamic and static stretching. And like I think it was, I may have this wrong, but it was like San Francisco does way less dynamic stretching than the other teams do. I mean, I would be, if I was John Lynch, I would be having my best men on this. Like you want to get this situated immediately, right?
You want to talk about teams whose windows are closing. So.
Yes. But oh God, the window is like, we are trying to hold that thing open.
Yeah, you're holding it up at this point.
Yeah, you've stuck everything in it to keep it open. But yeah, I think Ayuk has the biggest possible upside. I think let's see, DJ Moore, like it's a huge, like that money, I don't know what's going on over there. Like I don't know about DJ Moore. I don't know. Like, how old is he now?
28.
Yeah, 28.
Okay. It just feels like he's just been cruising along and like
he came in the league at 20.
And he
came in the league at 20. That's why
it feels like he's been there forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the Bears are like, sir, we feel like we are enough without you, and we are comfortable leaving you behind. Doesn't he have a massive contract? Isn't it hard to get out of this contract?
Not with a trade. Okay. Outright cutting, yes. A trade before June, so basically during the draft. Like I think they have I think it's like a $10 million dead cap hit, but they save 16.
It's not crazy. Million. Okay, so I think they'll try to move him just because there's so much young talent over there. Yeah. He'll move, and he could do well. He could do well in a Charger uniform. I feel like he could be anywhere like that. Michael Pittman. I think Pittman will stay because Alec Pierce will be gone. Alec Pierce is going to be. So you think
Alec Pierce actually gets a bag somewhere else?
I don't think he necessarily gets a bag. I think he goes somewhere else. I mean, I think he gets a moderate amount of money. I think we'll be surprised at what he gets, and we'll go, that guy, really?
Yeah,
that much?
I agree.
I see him. I mean, I even think he could go to like Kansas City. Like he's that sort of vibe of like, you know, they need their new MVS. They need their like bomb guy, right? He's down there somewhere. And Calvin Ridley, like, I don't know. Like, I think if Tennessee does go and get that wide receiver one, however they do that, maybe Ridley's okay staying and just being like, I feel okay being a 2 or a 3 or something. Yeah. I don't know about that.
Josh, you think any of these guys can be stars elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm looking squarely at Michael Pittman Jr. He has 0 guaranteed money on his contract. I think it's an easy out for the Colts, and I think that they want to bring back Alec Pierce because at the end of the day, they're in the same situation the Giants were in when the Giants had to make a decision between Saquon and Daniel Jones. That's the Colts right now, making a decision between Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce was their offense. Outside of Jonathan Taylor, it was him. Yeah. And he was producing with both Daniel Jones and then Phillip Rivers, right? So I think that they kind of look at him as that's their next wide receiver, right? Like Michael Pittman has been solid, but he hasn't, like he's at 2,000-yard seasons. They paid him, and he's been okay with the QB carousels that have gone through there, but he hasn't really like wowed them. But I think that he's kind of entering his like, you know, smart veteran wide receiver era that can just kind of come
Keenan Allen, Keenan Allen phase.
Kind of, yeah. Like they kind of play very similar roles, right? Like you kind of move him into the slot, or you play him in sort of that Z role where he's kind of in between the 5 to 15-yard line. Like he's a career 10.8 yards per catch guy.
Yeah.
Early in his career, he was going down the field. He was at 14 plus yards per carry. But
I said he was Mike Williams. He was literally a carbon copy of Mike Williams.
But that's not what he's become.
Nope.
And I don't know if it's just because of the offense that he's been in. Maybe some of the injuries have taken their toll, what have you. But what he's shown, it's kind of Keenan Allen-esque at this point. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that there's a role out there. Where do you think he goes?
It's the last part of the show.
It's the last part of the show, Julia. We're getting there. Don't worry about it. We're getting there.
Yeah. My bad.
But Michael Pittman's averaged 68.4 per catch percent. So like he's surefire, reliable hands. And I think there's a lot left in the tank if the Colts do ultimately end up moving off of him.
All right, I do want to get to landing spots, and I was going to try to do it with 10 minutes left in the show so we weren't too far over, but I'm going to give you guys a chance of all of these names. Are there any under the radar names, Julia, that we haven't had a chance to talk about that you think could make a fantasy impact next season if they were on a different team? I think your Romeo Doubs pick probably surprised a lot of people, but
I'm very pro Dobbs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think look, he's older. I think you still need to talk about him, Debo. Like he could have one, but there's a lot of tread on those tires. There's a lot of tread on those tires. But he could get fortunate enough and maybe have one of those outlier touchdown seasons. That's the only thing that is there. Again, like I said, to circle back at the beginning of the show where it's like, are you willing to take a shot on someone who's done it before or go with someone who's never seen it? It could be a boat. I'm interested to see where he goes. I mean, Miami's going to need somebody. I don't know if that's where he goes, but I'm interested to see where he goes.
Yeah. Josh?
For me, I'm going to pour a little salt on one of Julia's takes from earlier this year. I think Jahan Dotson is interesting. Simply because, again, it's the draft capital. It's that former first-round pick. He spent the last 2 years in Philadelphia behind Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, so he didn't really get a ton of opportunities. But being able to kind of learn from those veterans that, have been there and done it and succeeded in this league, I think getting an opportunity, he's probably going to end up going to a team that's starved for wide receiver depth, that, maybe he'll get an opportunity to show he can be a 3 or he'll sign as a 3. Maybe he can be a 2, with injuries, what have you.
The Raiders, maybe the Raiders.
Raiders could very easily be one of those teams that might look his way. Yeah. I mean, he did score 7 touchdowns his rookie season. So he's got talent.
Yeah.
It's
feels
just
like 10 years ago.
He felt, right. It does. He fell out of favor really quickly in Washington. Philly scooped him up and, he was a reliable 3. He wasn't, but again, the third wide receiver on that team does nothing because you have a star running back, you have a star tight end, and you have 2 great wide receivers. So he wasn't going to see any opportunity except in preseason and in mop-up duty and garbage time, what have you. So,
yeah, look, I was a Dotson fan. I would be happy to see it, but
I will say I do think, because he's not on the list, I think Dotson in New Orleans is interesting because of the Kellen Moore connection, having played with him in Philly. They threw a lot of darts at wide receivers last year to kind of find somebody opposite of Chris Olave. Devon Vele had one good game. They swung a deal for Jalen Polk, which obviously, that was for 2026 and beyond. But I think Jalen Polk has always been a very overrated wide receiver anyway. So I think, you get Jahan Dotson on a 1-year, $6 to $10 million deal because you're paying him for the first round draft capital, whatever, and just kind of see hey, maybe something can work. I think that would be a move that would make sense for New Orleans.
It's funny, we haven't even really talked about New Orleans at all, and they're going to have to pull this down to the nub soon.
We've been saying that about New Orleans for years too.
Alvin Kamara is bless his heart. Gotta take that nose ring out. It's time.
Those days are
fast.
Pause. Yeah. Before we end the show with landing spots, Modify Season has been waiting forever for their question because that was a long section. Dynasty question: will we trade away Garrett Wilson for the 104 and a 2028 second? They do mention that you have to start 4 wide receivers. They have Puka and Neighbors, but then behind that, not a lot. Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, Ricky Pearsall, Jacoby Myers. They do throw a second offer out there where they can include the 303 and bring in the 205. So Josh, is a 1-4 and plus picks enough to move off of Garrett Wilson at this point?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, it's not an indictment on Garrett Wilson as a talent. He's stuck with the Jets in New York, and they don't have a quarterback. And he's on his Terry McLaurin track right now. He's probably not going to pop for another 2-3 years. It feels like. So reset the clock. The 104 is going to be one of those top 3 wide receivers. Take one of them, see what happens.
Make it your choice in a super flex.
But that's the thing. I mean, you'll probably have Mendoza and Love go 1 and 2 would probably be my guess in a super flex. I don't think that there's a tight end in this class, truthfully. I know people are going to push back on Sadiq a little bit. I don't look at him as
He's
one of
good,
those
but he
guys.
shouldn't be. Yeah, I agree.
So like
Yeah.
you're going to be looking at those top 3 guys as the next 3 picks, in my opinion. So get one of them and get a couple extra picks, add some depth there. I'm perfectly fine making this move.
If you could make that 28 be a 27 and see if you could do a little, even if it's a 27 third, like I feel like have a little bit.
So
yeah,
down the road.
I don't even know when that is. That's forever. So that can is kicked way down the road. Yeah, I would try that. See if you can squeeze that as the 2027.
There you go. I just accidentally closed the show sheet because I'm a fucking moron. But it is time to get into landing spots. Before we do so, if you haven't hit that like button, hit it. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit it. If you're following us on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, let's get into the landing spot predictions. I'm just going to go around the horn here. Julia, where do you have the man, the myth, the legend, the one the show's all about, George Pickens? Where do you see him ending up this season?
Dallas.
You think he stays?
I think he does.
Josh?
Yeah, Dallas.
I also have Dallas. I just don't see the move happening, and they have the money that they will have the money to be able to make it happen. Wan'Dale Robinson, Julia.
I think he stays with the Giants.
I also think he stays at the Giants, Josh.
I'm in the same boat. I think Tennessee will put up a fight, but I do think that the Giants will ultimately make it happen. All
right, and this is where I think we're going to finally start to see some differing opinions. Alec Pierce, Julia.
I think he goes to Kansas City.
Kansas. I like that, by the way, when you said it. I didn't think about that one. Josh?
Man, that would be admitting defeat on Xavier Worthy because I feel like that's the same.
That's what you thought.
Okay.
Same role, right?
But also too, like Rashee Rice, like how many more crimes can you commit? Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like,
especially with him up for an extension, like they need something there.
Dude. Like
the flag is very red at this point.
Yeah. Kelsey maybe has a year. Maybe it seems like Noah Gray's there, but he's a blocking tight end. You're going to need somebody else. Like, I feel like Xavier Worthy, I wanted to believe, but I don't think it is. So I think they could try to get a couple people over there, and they'll easily be able to tell people, hey guys, we had a down year. Come over here. Let's bounce back. You want to win a Super Bowl, kid? Like,
yeah. My only concern, because I'm not going to mention Kansas City too much on this, is do they have a healthy quarterback to be able to tell that story is my concern there. So
I mean,
Patrick Mahomes will be fine.
Yeah.
Josh, where do you see Alec Pierce ended up?
I think he stays in Indy. I think they'll find a way to lock him up and then probably franchise tag Daniel Jones.
You guys told an excellent story for a wide receiver earlier in the show, and it was the exact story I was going to tell for Alec Pierce to the New Orleans Saints. I think he's a great fit. Chris Olave is turning into Michael Thomas, doing all the underneath stuff. They need somebody who can stretch the field. They gave up on Rashid Shaheed, which was a stupid thing to do. Alec Pierce is a nice one to bring in and fill that gap. Your guy, Julia, Romeo Doubs, where do you see him?
Josh, can you do yours first? Because I literally didn't know. That's the one I didn't.
I got you.
Yeah, I don't know where he goes.
Josh?
So I ultimately landed on Pittsburgh.
Me and Josh.
Oh, that would be horrible.
I landed on Pittsburgh because when you look at McCarthy's system, he typically has 2 wide receivers to roll with. And I mean, we've seen, I think Dobbs can play a very similar role for him that Donald Driver and Jordy Nelson played. Like, he can be a very versatile threat that can do a little bit of everything. And his skill set to me would complement DK Metcalf very well.
You are saying all of the things. However, someone needs to throw a football in the area.
And again, I do think Aaron Rodgers comes back. I do.
Again,
but Pittsburgh actually has a decent amount of cap space, which I was like, wow, I don't know. Pittsburgh's not a team that typically has a lot of cap space.
Yeah.
Which was really surprising to me. So
sad if he goes
but
there.
for a team that obviously didn't value wide receiver depth with Arthur Smith, they're going to value wide receiver depth with Mike McCarthy.
It's a good idea.
I don't even have a differing opinion to give you, Julia, because I also said Pittsburgh because of just the connections with Rodgers and McCarthy.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I would be really sad, I think, if that happened, though.
That's fair. No landing spot prediction then. Too tough.
I'll by default I'll go with your Pittsburgh, but I'll do it with a sad face.
Does anybody have a different answer for Rashid Shaheed than the most obvious Las Vegas Raiders landing spot?
No.
It's just
Makes
about.
sense.
I think Seattle will want to keep him, but I think they're going to prioritize. I mean, they've got a lot of cap space, but they've got a lot of players that need extensions, and I think they have to do something with.
They also
Sam
brought
Darnold,
him in,
obviously, too. So
they also brought him in when Torrey Horton was banged up, and if they like Torrey Horton, they may just try to stick with Torrey Horton. And
exactly.
Can I ask where you guys thought Ken Walker was going to go?
Yeah,
I could show you.
I think he's staying. So we had Kendall Valenzuela on the show last week, and her and I basically think that team is in, I don't want to call it turmoil because they're the fucking Super Bowl champions, but you just lost your offensive coordinator. You just lost Zach Charbonnet. I thought they needed Ken Walker to kind of be like, everything's fine. Look, we got our guy back.
Yeah, so, I think they should fight tooth and nail to keep him.
Yeah.
But okay, cool.
Josh at one point was all in on Tennessee, but then you pivoted right off of that on the show last week. So.
I did, yeah. I found a different back for Tennessee. Can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but
I think
Julia
must have been someone great in the show. Juwan Jennings, Julia, you have him staying in San Fran, right?
Jennings, yes, I think he stays there. Third and Juwan, baby.
I think he's bitter about the fact that they didn't give him the kind of extension that he actually wanted. I think he goes to Tennessee. I think he follows Robert Saleh over there.
That's a good one. But also, you now have a 75-man roster in Tennessee. Everybody's going over there for
they got $90 million in cap space. Like
they could have the JV squad. They have the time and they have the money.
Yeah. Josh has Tennessee fielding two teams this season.
They are.
Oh man, that's so funny. That would be. I could see that as a possibility.
Yeah, because like I said, they're not gonna have an opportunity to go after the big wide receiver, right? So then it becomes: do they chase one of these top wide receivers in this class, or do they just get a veteran and believe in the rookies and let them see if they can develop, right? And just get a veteran that Cam Ward can lean on. Like you said, third and Juwan.
I mean, if Jennings goes to Tennessee, like first of all, San Francisco needs someone anyway. But if they lose Jennings, right? And I know George Kittle says he'll be back for the first game, but let's be realistic. Like, I love Ricky Pearsall, but he hasn't shown that he can. But he needs somebody else, even if he is everything. Like, you need someone else, and Christian, as Mike said, Christian McCaffrey siphoned all of the wellness from everyone else on the team.
That's all right. McCaffrey's giving it back this season.
I know. 100%. I'm definitely not drafting him this season. But then does San Francisco have to draft a wide receiver? Like, that's a really interesting situation. Are they going to?
Someone in the chat actually brought that up. Like, when we started talking about Ayuk and Jen, like San Francisco might be in a place of need at this point. So
yeah, they are. I mean, they really are. Interesting.
Does anybody see Mike Evans leaving?
I think he goes to New England.
I think he either stays, it's New England or Buffalo. Those are the three.
I have him staying.
Somebody get him a fur coat.
Yeah, you remember when Keon Coleman was talking about warm coats? That didn't work out well.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
don't go north, Mike Evans. Don't go north.
It's too cold.
Tyreek Hill. I think I know what the obvious answer is going to be, Julia.
I'm saying Kansas City. Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah, I think he goes to KC, but I think it's ultimately going to be very late in the offseason.
Yes.
I think the team, they're not going to rush to bring him back because of, they want to see where he's at with the knee. But I also think that they kind of will want to see it out with the Rashee Rice situation. Yeah. And maybe there's some level of a verdict that comes down in the beginning or as the offseason, gets closer to week one. And I think that, because again, Tyreek Hill knows the system, but then it becomes, are you healthy enough to start the season? Right. And if he is, then they got to plug and play. Right.
I straight up put nowhere. I don't know that Tyreek Hill plays football. I think this injury is bad. I think he's an old man who is dependent on his speed. And
these types of injuries will siphon your speed. I agree.
Did you not read his tweet, Ryan? Like, he said something like the cheetah is dialed in like he's never been before. Like, he's never been dialed in before.
Yeah, he's got all them kids to support.
I was gonna say
He has
being dialed in like
27
he's
touchdowns.
never been before is being dialed in like 1% for.
I know. That's what I
not-
know. I was like
reading.
bold tweet. So
Yeah.
sir, bold.
AJ Brown. I know Josh and I think he goes nowhere, Julia, and it sounded like you were ready to jump on that train with us.
At first I was thinking he would go to New England. I think if he leaves, he goes to New England. But I'm a little bit more. I've been talked into staying in Philly.
All right, and now we have guys who I think we're going to have landing spots for all of them that are not where they are currently. Deebo Samuel, Julia.
I mean, I said maybe Miami. But I mean,
as
that. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I originally wrote down Josh that he was going to go back to San Francisco, but I think Jennings ends up back in San Francisco.
Could you imagine? They're just like bring him back.
See, I think Deebo goes back to San Francisco.
Okay.
I think
I would
the
love
reason,
that.
I think the whole reason that they traded him was because it was you're making more money than what you're producing.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen through all these years the spike season that Deebo had that got him paid. That's not the wide receiver that he is.
Yeah,
he is a clear complementary piece that makes an offense exotic. Doesn't make an offense go. And I think that Deebo can be somebody that can kind of help usher in Ricky Pearsall being the team's wide receiver 1, but also we know Christian McCaffrey's due for an injury. Deebo can take some carries, so it just makes sense.
Read the tea leaves, yeah.
Yep, read the tea
I would like
leaves.
that. I would like to see Deebo back in San Francisco. The fans would go nuts. They would love that.
And it's not going to cost them $27 million a year to bring him back. So,
Speaking of San Francisco, Julia, where do you see Brandon Ayuk ending up?
I think someone said it in the chat. Maybe Green Bay. Yeah. Well, because
didn't they have an interest in him when he was drafted to San Francisco, I believe?
I think so too.
Okay.
And then the other team that had a big Brandon Ayuk interest was the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have another team that's just for the.
Could you imagine Ayuk and DK? Oh God, those two.
Well, we talked about how Ayuk and George Pickens would have killed each other. Or excuse me, DK and George Pickens would have killed each other. Brandon Ayuk and DK Metcalf would go to.
They will literally murder each other. I got to tell you, I did an NFL commercial a couple seasons ago, and DK was one of the guys, and he's big, right? He's big, but I was like, good Lord, this man is massive. He is massive. Yeah. Oh,
is he like 5'10", 215 or something? Like, dude's a rock.
I don't know. I'm tiny. I'm like 5'2", so like anyone's
Debo is
huge for me.
I don't mean to bring politics into this, but Debo is 6'3", 245 because it's what Donald Trump claims to be.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, that was a meme going around.
Debo is not that big.
That's the
neither is Donald Trump.
Using. Well, yeah. Again, I wasn't going to go full.
Debo's 6 foot 215.
Okay, so I don't know.
I mean, are we talking about fatter Debo or like more stealth Debo?
Yeah, right.
Because there were two Debos. There were two Debos.
That's true too. Josh, where do you see Brandon Ayuk?
I think he goes to Washington. There's been a lot of buzz about him.
That has certainly been the buzz.
Jaden Daniels, and somebody brought it up in the chat last week too.
Didn't think about that. You're right.
But yeah, I mean, they need a 2 opposite Terry McLaurin, right? And
that'd be a good fit, actually.
And honestly, I think that would make that offense a lot of fun. For fantasy purposes, not for me as an Eagles fan, but it would be a lot of fun.
Then I go with you, Ayuk to Washington. I say DJ Moore to the Packers then.
Okay. I'm going full chaos agent on Deebo Samuel because he's a train wreck, and there's only one train wreck organization. The
Deebo or Ayuk?
Or Brandon Ayuk, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh God, you send him to Cleveland? Why would
Brandon
you do
Ayuk
that?
to Cleveland? Because
honestly, that might be the only team that would have a contract for him. Like,
and that's
he might not have a choice.
That is exactly what I was thinking, Josh, is who is willing to give a bad contract to a red flag?
Yeah.
The Cleveland fucking.
I ultimately think Cleveland's just going to hit the draft for a lot of their pieces. That's why I didn't pick anybody there. Because
Cleveland's like,
honestly, I can't see a free agent being like, Cleveland, yeah, that sounds like a good place to play.
I think the manager would be like, bro, you don't.
Yeah, their agent would be like, yo, do you want just a bag? Because Cleveland's got, and that's the thing, they don't even have fucking money. They have to build through the draft. Because that Deshaun Watson contract.
Jerry Judy's like, join me.
Exactly.
That would not enhance any wide receivers prospects.
No,
certainly. Jerry Judy's terrible.
Julia mentioned DJ Moore to the Packers. Josh, where do you got him going?
I've been saying all offseason, I think Tennessee's a great place for him.
As do I. And
wide receiver 8. Wide receiver, wide receiver 8 through 12.
I added him to the list, so if you guys don't have answers, but we teased Michael Pittman, and I realized he wasn't on the list. Do either of you have landing spots for Michael Pittman if you think he leaves?
Julie, didn't you say earlier in the show that you thought he would stay in Indy?
I thought he would stay,
Yes.
but
Okay.
I'm frozen again. My face is frozen again.
Oh, you're fine.
I think he goes to Vegas.
Okay, that's good.
So, Josh, in my last minute notes, I added Vegas as well.
Yeah, like I said, I think they make the biggest splash. I've already said that they go and they get Rashid Shaheed, so he can play that deep threat in Kubiak's system. And then Pittman can be that sort of, underneath chain mover kind of guy. He obviously isn't going to have the level of explosiveness that JSN will have, but he's a reliable hands, a reliable target for a young rookie quarterback who we presume is, going to be Fernando Mendoza there. So,
all right. Before we wrap up, we had a couple of predictions from the chat for Mr. Mike Evans while we were talking earlier in the show. Scamper says reuniting with Liam Cohen.
I think the only way that happens is if Brian Thomas Jr. gets traded.
Okay.
Oh, that's a whole nother one we could spend an hour.
I was gonna say, we didn't mention that. I should have brought that one in there. But
and then who recently said Evans to the Raiders for that landing spot for a team that certainly needs wide receiver help. That wraps up the wide receiver free agency episode. A huge thank you to Julia Papworth. Once again, remind folks where they can find your work, anything you have going on right now.
You can find me over at Fantasy Footballers. I'm the content editor over there. And some rookie profiles will start coming up over there on that site really soon. We're working really hard on our Dynasty Pass and our scouting reports. And you'll see some of my stuff over on Football Guys too. So here, there, and everywhere.
Josh, what do we got going on at Club Fantasy and Women of Fantasy Football?
Yeah, so we've got a team of ladies covering the combines. Wendy Early, who was in the chat a little bit earlier today, Stacey Perez from Fantasy and Frames, Amber Alert, Amber Phillips, her Twitter handle is Amber Alert. She does some work with Fantasy Football Advice Network, and we're crossing fingers, but our own Renee should be able to get there. There's obviously been a lot of turmoil in her home country in Mexico, but I heard from her today, and she's hopeful that she'll be able to get a flight out. So hopefully we'll have the full crew there, but if not, obviously, Renee needs to just stay safe. That's the most important part. I was literally going to say
our best to Renee.
Yeah. So we'll have a team there covering the combine. Jenny Swigert, she did some stuff actually pre-combine. They did a women's seminar there hosted by Courtney Cronin from ESPN.
I saw that. That looked great.
Jenny was invited as a part of the mentor-mentee program that they have going on, and she posted a little video. It's should be live on her Twitter, and I know it was on her Instagram as well. So a lot of cool stuff going on.
That looks so great. I follow Tracy Sandler, and she posted
I saw that get dropped, and I was like, damn, are we gonna have anybody there? Because I know Stacy wasn't coming in. Stacy and Wendy, I don't think we're getting there until Thursday. And I was like, damn, that would have been so good. But I know Stacy reached out to Courtney to actually.
The year that I was off, Josh. The year that I'm not even working.
But Stacy actually reached out to Courtney and to try to see if they could link up. And Courtney got back to her immediately. So I know that they're trying to plan something to meet up. So hopefully we'll have some cool stuff from there. So obviously follow Women of Fantasy Football. It's at women_of on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. We'll have some videos and content up throughout that. And next week, we'll finish up with the tight end show, and we're bringing on a good buddy for us, Mr. Chris Allen. You can find all his work over at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, as well as Yahoo Fantasy Football. Always love when Chris comes on and talks, because he also gets to go to the combine, and he's always got some fun nuggets for us.
We'll talk a little bit of tight ends, because there ain't shit to talk about at that position.
Especially because the Falcons have already franchise tagged Kyle Pitts. So there's
not much happening. Huh?
All right, folks, that is going to wrap up the wide receivers. Next week will be the tight ends. For Julia, Josh, and myself, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done it already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We will see you next week. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. Free agent tight ends next week.